And now joining me on the news are Mr. Aryama Sundaram, senior advocate. Thank you very much, Mr. Sundaram, for speaking to me on the news hour. 74 days after fire broke out at 30 Tughlaq Crescent, the then home of Justice Varma, now we have the report of the three-member committee of judges. Of course, it hasn't been made public so far, but in the interest of truth and transparency, we have the details of this report. What is your take on the conclusions of this report? Are we being extremely cussed about transparency and bringing out the truth in the open in this entire matter?
Well, I believe an issue like this, I don't see where the question of lack of transparency can ever come in. I think transparency is a must. We are dealing with a pillar of democracy, the judiciary. We are dealing with something which is a matter which affects the very public perception of fairness of the judiciary. The judiciary is considered the last hope in a democracy. Our judiciary has always lived up very often to that task and more. So if there's any kind of slur where it can result in a lack of confidence of people, I don't see why such a report should not be transparent. And I will also tell you why. I can understand if it's national security involved or something affecting the integrity of India or something affecting the sovereignty of India. But it can't be that, okay, since the dirty linen is the judiciary's dirty linen, let's brush it under the carpet.
Well, so in this case, the report submitted by the three-member committee made by the former Chief Justice of India was submitted on the 3rd of May, after which Justice Khanna is learned to have written a letter to Justice Varma, and the options there, as a layperson, to my mind, as a common man, the options there were either resign or go in for a voluntary retirement, else removal process will have to be taken. Now, if he has sent this report failing the resignation of the voluntary retirement scheme that he was offering, even then it is lying with the president as well as maybe the executive, the prime minister. Wasn't it incumbent on the Chief Justice himself to have ordered an FIR into the criminal investigation or to make this report public as he had in the earlier correspondence in March? Why hasn't he?
No, there I do not agree with that. I'll explain to you why, Navika. See, let's understand what is impeachment. You see, the process of impeachment under the Constitution is really, it is a protection that he need not be under threat of being removed at any time or cannot be removed because he makes a non-populist judgment or an anti-government or otherwise. So it is a security for a judge that he cannot be removed except through the process of impeachment. Now, impeachment itself is not a punishment. Impeachment is a removal from office of a person who is not fit to hold that office. It is in itself is not a punishment process. It is that in certain offices, under constitutional offices, you cannot remove somebody except through following the elaborate procedure of impeachment. So it is for judges of the Supreme Court and High Court. Now, obviously, if they are to resign, then the purpose is achieved because they no longer hold that office. So you need not go through the elaborate process of impeachment to remove them from office. Now, so far as an FIR is concerned, that is different. Whether you impeach or don't impeach, whether you remove the judge or don't remove the judge, you can nonetheless prosecute if permitted constitutionally. Now, in the case of a judge of a high court, again a protection that such a prosecution would not take place without the sanction of the Chief Justice. But who is to prosecute? It is not the court, is never the prosecutor. The very separation of powers will become ridiculous if the court is both prosecutor and judge. The court can't be prosecutor and judge. Let me explain. So the prosecution has to be done by the state. But in order to prosecute a judge, they need sanction. Now, nobody has gone to the Chief Justice for sanction for the prosecution. Tomorrow, this question will arise if the state decides to prosecute, decides that an FIR, any officer who's open to an officer who has the powers under the Act, under the CRPC and otherwise, to register an FIR. But in the case of a judge, he must first get the sanction. But we haven't come to that stage. Nobody has asked for the sanction. Let the sanction be asked for. Then we come to it. Which is why Chief Justice Gawai quite rightly, when someone filed a writ petition saying that direct the prosecution, he said that's not our job. Prosecuting is the state's job. But if the state wants to prosecute, they ask for sanction. So the question of what the judiciary should do or should not do, what the Chief Justice should do or should not do in a prosecution, arises when they move him for sanction to prosecute.
No.
Not till then.
No.
Till then the court has no role in it.
But Mr. Sundaram, I don't know. My understanding is that there is a Supreme Court judgment which, the Veeraswamy case, which does not allow anybody to file an FIR till such time that the Chief Justice actually gives his, permission. Now that we have a report and the report indicts Justice Varma, when are we going to go through the process for this?
Has to ask the Chief Justice. Someone has to ask the Chief Justice, please let me prosecute. Yes, you're right. There is a process by which the Chief Justice has to give his consent. But to give that consent, someone has to ask for his consent.
No, don't prosecute. Well, set up an in-house committee. The in-house committee not made public. Now, nobody will even look at this report, because if there is impeachment, there will be another judges committee that will give its own response. If there is an application of sanction, then the new Chief Justice will look at its own. Well, so then the judgment is clear that you and I, as citizens of India, just have to sit back, watch this ball of football, game of football going on between Chief Justice, committee. Sorry. I don't know what's going on. We're just sitting there. The judge is under the spotlight. Who's going to take the call? The President of India, the Prime Minister, the Chief Justice, the committee of judges? Who's going to take a call?
Navika, there is no football. You see, you're talking about football. There's no football. The judiciary has completed its job. What had to be done? An in-house inquiry, a report, a recommendation has gone. With this, the judiciary has no further role. There's no football. Let me put it the other way. They've passed the baton. It's more the relay. The baton has been passed. And the next one, the third leg, has to take over. It's not for the judiciary to do anything any further.
So what you're saying is between March and May 28th, we've seen the trailer. Picture abhi baki hai. Is that right? Picture abhi baki hai, Mr. Sundaram. Well, on that note, thank you very much for joining me on the News Hour. And thank you for telling us that no action is actually the action in this entire case. Well, if you're confused, viewers, so am I. We'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for joining.